A reading from the book of Acts, chapter 17, no commentary. And when they took the road through Anapopolis and Anopolia, they reached Thessalonia, where there was a synagogue of the Jews. Following his usual customs, Paul joined them, and for 3 Sabbaths he entered into the discussion with them from the Scriptures, expounded and demonstrating that the Messiah had to suffer and rise from the dead, and that this is the Messiah, Jews, whom I proclaim to you. Some of them were convinced and joined Paul and Silas too. A great number of Greeks who were worshippers, and not a few of the prominent women. But Jews became jealous and recruited some worthless men loitering around the public square. Formed a mob and set the city in turmoil. They marched on the house of Jason, intended to bring them before the people's assembly. When they could not find them, they dragged Jason and some of his brothers before the city magistrates, shouting, "These people who have been creating a disturbance all over the world have now come here, and Jason has welcomed them." They all act in opposition to the decrees of Caesar, and claim that instead there is another King Jesus. They stirred up the crowd and the city magistrates, who, upon hearing these charges, took a surety of payment from Jesus and others before releasing them. The others immediately sent Paul and Silas to Beroea during the night. Upon arrival, they went to the synagogue of the Jews. The Jews were far more fair-minded than those in Thessalonica, for they had received the word with all willingness and exclaimed the scriptures daily to determine that these things were so. Many of them became believers, as did not a few of the influential Greek women and men. But when the Jews of Thessalonica learned that the word of the God had now been proclaimed by Paul in Beroea, also they came there too, to cause a commotion to stir up the crowds. So these brothers at once sent Paul on his way to the seacoast, while Silas and Timothy remained behind. After Paul's escort had taken him to Athens, they came away with the instructions for Silas and Timothy to join him as soon as possible. When Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he grew exasperated at the sight of the city full of idols. So he debated in the synagogue with the Jews and with the worshippers daily in the public square with whomever happened to be there. Even some of the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers engaged him in discussion. Some asked, "What is this scavenger trying to say?" Others said, "He sounds like a promoter of foreign deities because he was preaching about Jesus and resurrection." They took him and led him to Areopagus and said, "May we learn what this new teaching is that you speak of? For you bring some strange notions to our ears. We would like to know what these things mean." And now all of Athens, as well as foreigners residing there, used their time for nothing else but telling or hearing something new. Now all of Athens, as well as foreigners residing there, used their time for nothing else but telling or learning something new. When Paul stood up at the Areopagus, he said, "You Athenians, I see that in every respect you are very religious. For as I walked around looking carefully at your shrines, I even discovered an altar inscribed to an unknown God. What therefore you unknowingly worship, I proclaim to you. The God who made the world and all that is in it, the Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in sanctuaries made by human hands, nor is he served by human hands because he needs anything. Rather, it is he who gives to everyone life and breath and everything. He made from one the whole human race to dwell on the entire surface of the earth, and he fixed the ordered seasons in the boundaries of their regions. So that people might seek God, perhaps even grope for him and find him. Though through needed, he is not far from any one of us. For For in him we live and move and have our being. As even some of your poets have said, we too are of his offspring. Since, therefore, we are the offsprings of God, we ought not to think of the divinity that is like an image, fashioned from gold and silver, or stone by human art or imagination. God has overlooked these. God has overlooked the times of ignorance, but now He demands that people of all people repent, because He has established a day on which He would judge the world with justice. Through a man He has appointed, and He has provided confirmation for all of us for raising Him from the dead. When he heard about the resurrection of the dead, some began to scoff, but others said, "We should like to hear you on this some other time." So Paul left them, and some did join him and became believers. Among them were Dionysius, a member of the court of Areopagus, a woman named Darmas, and the others with them. Okay, so he's in Greek now, in Roman Greece, and he's actually explaining to them that their pagan gods are invalid and whatnot. Anyways, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. God loves you.